continues from New York City with Terry Moran.
Pat Tillman gave up the chance to compete in the National Football League and to follow his patriot heart. He fought for the country. But his deployment first was to Iraq, and his journals reveal that he was troubled by that. He felt his war was in Afghanistan. More now from Bob Woodward.
By April 2004, Pat Tillman was finally in Afghanistan. It was where he wanted to be.
He'd become much more disillusioned about the Army, by what he'd seen in Iraq. But he was going to fulfill his commitment, and he was looking forward to going to Afghanistan.
On April 22nd, 2004, while on mission in the mountains of Afghanistan near the Pakistan border, a Humvee broke down, and the platoon was ordered to split into two groups. Pat went with one, and his brother went with the other.
It's really sad. It's this tragic cascade of decisions.
I heard the gunfire, and then I saw the tracer rounds pouring out of the canyon.
Insurgents had attacked Kevin's group, and Pat's group raced to support them.
It was almost like a fireworks show, and my adrenaline just immediately spiked. And then once I got out of the vehicle, my squad leader, he was like, all right, this is it, calm down, this is what we trained for. And I kind of, came back to reality for a second. And then we charged up the hill.
Communications were down, and the men under fire, including Tillman's brother, had no idea their fellow Rangers were on the ridge, trying to protect them.
The guys being ambushed came racing out, guns blazing.
And I remember him, he was trying to make contact, he was waving his arms and everything.
Pat and an Afghan soldier serving with him were killed by friendly fire.
I saw him slumped over. I saw O'Neill grab him and pull him back, and that's when I could tell he was hit. Couldn't see it great. No, honestly, I didn't really want to look at it. It's a lot of, I remember seeing a hole. This looked like a mist of red.
Kevin, who wasn't there when Pat was killed, he was at the end of the convoy. He got there later. He didn't know Pat was killed by friendly fire. Everyone else was told, don't tell Kevin. He was kept in the dark for a month.
The military told Pat's family he was killed by the Taliban. The Tillmans did not learn the truth until 5 weeks later.
I think it's wrong. I mean, you don't tell somebody a story that didn't happen to try and make them feel better. There's not a whole lot that's going to make them feel better at the time. You might as well just tell them the truth.
Pat's brother Kevin later went before Congress to talk about it.
Revealing that Pat's death was a fratricide would have been yet another political disaster, so the facts needed to be suppressed. An alternative narrative had to be constructed.
Krakauer's book reveals new information about Tillman's death, known until now only to the Army and his family. This video, never before aired, was taken by Army investigators in 2006. It shows the spot where Pat Tillman was killed.
Tillman was in the location here.
Behind these boulders, where he was hiding from a rain of bullets. What shocked you by that investigation?
No one's asking the right questions. They're not asking any questions. There's nothing. They just drive through the canyon. We're done now. Cut.
So they began at the north end of the valley.
You think when those read this book of yours, especially within the military, and certainly within the administration under President Bush, do you think they'll be able to say you've got the wrong story?
I think they'll raise objections. They certainly will. I mean, it's not a flattering portrait of Rumsfeld, Cheney especially, some very senior members of the officer corps, generals, we're talking four-star generals, did not do the right thing with Pat Tillman. They did the wrong thing.
The general now running the entire operation in Afghanistan now, General McChrystal, you in your book talk about his role in all of this.
McChrystal is extremely quiet. He covers his tracks, he avoids publicity, but we do know that McChrystal was notified probably the night Pat was killed and certainly the next day.
We interviewed McChrystal in Afghanistan this past July. We asked him to answer a few questions about Tillman. He refused. Former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld also refused to be interviewed for this story.
Many American families have suffered the same terrible sacrifice that the Tillman family now suffers.
In a standard Army deployment form Pat filled out before he left for Iraq, he made it very clear he did not want the military to have any direct involvement with his funeral. Nevertheless, the military did. If he was here right now and find out what happened, what do you think he would feel about the way that his funerals were treated?
he would be so angry. He would be so hurt and furious at what his families had to suffer at the hands of the Army and the government. I mean, you know, he would want to come down and wring someone's neck, for sure.
For Nightline, I'm Bob Woodruff in New York.
A Patriot story on this 9/11 anniversary, and our thanks to Bob Woodruff for that story. John Krakauer's book, Where Men Win Glory, The Odyssey of Pat Tillman, that'll be in bookstores on Tuesday. When we come back, a Coast Guard training exercise causes a security scare, and that's the subject of tonight's closing argument.